Welcome to the Main Street Minute with equestrian marketing expert India Wilkinson. This is the destination for all things equestrian, from horse sales, breeding, horse health, and a look into the intricacies of the horse business world. Join India as she dives in with industry leaders to discuss the challenging and rewarding lifestyle of being in the equestrian world. And get ready for the Main Street Minute.
Hi there, this is India Wilkinson with the Main Street Minute, and I am so excited to welcome Jackie Wammock with Travelera Partners. And we're going to talk about all things equestrian travel, and something that is really exciting that I'm personally looking forward to learning about is safari on horseback. But we're going to start with how I know you, Jackie. We fox hunted forever ago with Bear Creek Hounds, and we worked together with the Atlanta Steeplechase. So I know you from a commercial real estate background. You were I know you're very involved in that business, and now you're doing travel. So tell us a little bit how that all came about.
Hey, India. Thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So when I graduated from college, the first thing I wanted to do was be in the travel industry. And back in the day, being in travel meant you were a travel agent, which is completely different from what I do now, which is, designing and advising, specific trips. So I got a job. I ran, home, got the newspaper, anything that had travel in it back in the days of the classified ads, circled everything travel, and got a job in Atlanta with, a very big corporate, travel agency. And primarily what we did back in those days, if, I'm really dating myself here, we sold plane tickets. And we had corporate accounts. So it was great training. It was not how I envisioned I wanted my travel life to be. So I went into commercial real estate, which was the shopping center business, and did that in Atlanta and all over the country. It was a fabulous job for a really long time. And then I just sort of came full circle and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. We moved out of Atlanta. We moved to Aiken. I've always fox hunted. We have racehorses, been very active, not as active as you in the equestrian community. And I was sitting on the front of a sailboat in Croatia, drinking coffee early in the morning. And I was like, all right, now what? And so my husband came walking up and I said, what do you think about me getting back into travel? And he goes, wow, you'd be great at that. Because that's what I've been doing. It's sort of been my side gig. For the entire time I've had this very demanding career in commercial real estate, but I was always planning trips. And if I wasn't planning trips for myself, I like to talk. I would give everybody advice if they said they wanted to travel. So Lord knows how many trips I've planned for other people. So I opened up Travelera 2 years ago, and I wasn't planning for it to be equestrian focused. But you sell what you really get excited about.
Yes.
And I am excited about safaris. I'm excited about anything about horses. So any trip I go on, I'm always trying to find a horse to ride. And I've been pretty successful so far. I've got Antarctica coming up, hopefully next year. I'm going to strike out there.
On horseback?
Yeah, no. Antarctica,
Okay.
horses. Yeah, there's like icebergs and penguins, and that's it. So that'll be one trip I go on where there will be no horses. But safaris have just been a passion of mine, and I get really excited talking about it. And there's just always something for everyone. So if you're a rider, and and some people think that you can't ride on safari unless you are, a first flight fox hunter or an upper level eventer, and that's just not the case. There's something for everyone. You just have to know where to go. And that's
Nowhere to go. So,
yeah, nowhere to go.
One thing that I've always admired you, and I've always considered you a really good friend. We connected from the beginning, and I love that you. And I think this is such a great inspiration for anyone who's listening, is turning your passion into, and to monetize it. And that is something I think a lot of people are held back from, that they're like, I'm a commercial real estate, I'm in the commercial real estate industry. This is what I do. And I will say, because I know that we're about the same age. So even in, later in life, we can reinvent ourselves really anytime, because I'm kind of shocked that you've only been doing this for 2 years, because I feel like now this is who you are. This is what you do. And I think it's really cool to be able to share that you can reinvent yourself anytime and you can pursue your passions. And sometimes we do have to work those corporate jobs to be able to finance those passions, but you've been able then to transition that and your business background into what you're doing now. So first of all, I just applaud you for that. And I love that because I know that inspires a lot of people. So I do know that you create travel plans, agendas, and I think that is important to talk about in what you're doing now because yeah, the old school people still think, I know a lot of people still think about travel agents as booking trips, planning your itineraries. But as watching you on social media, knowing you, and I know that part of what you do is listening to someone's vision and what they want and turning that into reality. So today we want to talk about the safaris on horseback because that is, I know that's a bucket list item for a lot of people. And I've ridden in Ireland and it was crazy fun and it was wild. But we weren't dealing with animals and wild animals. And it was pretty predictable what we were doing. So just tell us about generally the experience and are there different types of safaris? Because I know for me, I evented, I fox hunted, so I'm probably going to be a little more adventurous than someone who maybe trail rides or rides dressage only. Or so are there different levels for different levels of riders?
Yeah, that's a great question. And India, at some point, I would love to talk to you about being an entrepreneur because you've always been an entrepreneur and I have not. So this was getting way outside my comfort zone, but it's, we can talk about that on a different podcast
Yes.
that you'll probably start.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
Where are those lists? There's always 40 under 40. Where's the 40 over 40 list?
Right.
But I
We need to
digress.
be on those 40 over 50.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
50 over 50.
So yeah. So yes, with safaris. And I can get on a bit of a soapbox here and I won't, but it's something that if you try to do it yourself, and this can be seen as a very self-serving comment, you really can mess it up. Because you're
Yeah.
right, you are dealing with wild animals, you're dealing with different countries. The African experience is so fabulous. I mean, I've spent 5 weeks in Africa so since December. If I could go tomorrow, I would. But there's something for everybody. You have to know the right people. You have to know where to go, what your riding ability is. I just booked a trip last week with two fox hunters from Texas, and they are very avid riders. Like you mentioned Ireland and how crazy and wild it is. That's the kind of people they are. So they were looking for, a very active riding experience. Then I have other people that never leave the arena, but they want to go. And to this, it's very intimidating. The kind of the baseline for being able to go on a riding safari, when I'm going to put an asterisk near this, is you have to be
Yeah.
able to canter confidently. So if there's a problem and you're hacking out or you're on a safari and an elephant appears, and it's sort of like fox hunting, when we would hit yellow jackets and everybody would be like, turn around, run. It's sort of
Yeah.
the same thing. You've got a guide up front and a guide behind you, and they will say, let's get out of here. So you have to be able to, canter confidently out of the way. Um, but that said, there are also certain lodges that have great equestrian programs where if you only really like want to walk and trot around a little bit and just get a little bit of riding in, they can keep you sort of close to the lodge where it's somewhat protected and you can still get a riding experience in. And you can do a lot of riding that way. But the three levels or the three different categories of riding safaris, and I'll start with the mobile riding safari, which is probably what most people see. And that is you're with a pretty big group, well, big by Africa sizes, so probably no more than 15 people. And you move from camp to, they say it's a mobile camp. So the camp is set up. You leave in the morning, you ride out, you meet for lunch somewhere, and then get back in the saddle. And this is covering a lot of miles. I mean, it would be like a 6 hour fox hunt, for example. So it's a lot of time in the
Wow.
saddle. And then you get back into camp, which has been relocated in the afternoon, probably in time for tea, like around 4 o'clock. Tea is a big thing in Kenya. And then your camp is set up. So that's more of a rustic, under canvas. You don't have running water. There are showers, but they're sort of like the camp showers. kind of a setup, and it's a lot of riding, and that is a more active group. So that is for people that are comfortable, spending a lot of time in the saddle on over multiple days, and those trips can be anywhere from 5 days, to 10. I mean, people really get into them. They're also on the more expensive side, as far as trips go. The second category, which is mostly what I book, is lodge stays. And I've got relationships with a couple of people that I've known since 2012 that have fabulous stables. They focus just on, equestrian and riding on safari. Super knowledgeable. The horses are incredible. The tack is perfect. I don't know if you've ever gone on a riding trip and you're like, oh God, this bridle's going to break. But it's a sophisticated group of people. And that's if you're into more comfort. And those lodges really vary. It's I like a lodge called Socian, which is very casual. It prices great. Their stable's incredible. It's in Laikipia, the Laikipia Plateau in northern Kenya. And really just a fabulous group of people. And they have been doing riding safaris for decades. They're one of the original people that do it. It's now owned by, a lovely young couple with some partners. And one of their partners actually is Argentinian. So they also have, I don't want to call it an Argentinian branch. He has a different company, but if you want to ride in Argentina, that's a fabulous place to go to. So that would be, staying in one lodge. I usually recommend more than one lodge because if you want to, the wildlife is different. So if you want to see rhino, you're going to have to, I'm just going to limit this to Kenya. You're going to have to go probably to the Lewa Conservancy because the rhino are so heavily poached. They are guarded and protected, and they've really boosted those populations. What I love about that conservancy, it's what you envision. It's wide open grasslands, rolling hills. You're walking your horse through herds of zebra that are just kind of getting out of the way. Walking up to a giraffe that's eating, an acacia tree, and it's just standing there looking at you because it's not afraid of the horses. So that's just a magical experience. So you can combine on your typical safari trip, one, two, or three lodges, depending upon, what your budget is and what you want to see. And it's, you can do in an 8-day trip, 3 lodges because we're flying you usually on a private flight or Safari Link. They'll come pick you up at the lodge and then take you to the next lodge. So it's a really easy transfer. You have breakfast, you do your ride or your grain drive in the morning. You come back, your bag, you've packed your bags, the plane comes, picks you up, takes you, you fly an hour and you're at the next lodge in time for lunch. So there's, you don't miss a whole day to travel if you're staying in the same country. So then the third type of safari is if you want to get in a little bit more riding, not as much as the mobile safari, but a little bit more than just riding out twice a day at a lodge. You can ride lodge to lodge, which is, really interesting. So you spend a long day in the saddle. You're going to meet some places that'll have a fabulous lunch set up for you to take a break. And then you'll end up at another lodge. So not a tented camp. That's kind of, more rustic and is luxury, but it's camping. And those are fun to do too. And you can actually do those for just like 2 or 3 days. So it just depends upon kind of what kind of a rider you are. And then if you, like my husband took lessons in October, started taking lessons. We just got back in June. I led a group. He wanted to ride so badly, and he is not a rider. And he took lessons every week. He worked really hard. We got to Africa, and he said, "Oh, I don't know that I can do this." And the woman that manages the stable at Socian is a super experienced person. And we had somebody else that was, not wanting to ride too much. So they tailored a ride, where Sam and one of our other travelers could ride together and feel secure and still get to see some game and not have to worry, that they were going to be told to, run for their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible that you have so many different options. And I just want to back up a little bit. I want to talk about the African experience. I have been to South Africa 8 times myself. I have family that lives there, as you know, and it is absolutely life-changing.
Mhm.
It will, for anyone listening to this, it will change your life to go to Africa. It just seeing just a completely different way of life. But there's also just incredible cosmopolitan areas too. Cape Town is my favorite city in the
Mhm.
whole world. So I really highly recommend anyone to go to Africa, and get
Yeah,
that
and it's a
experience.
big continent, and sort of, a lot of people I think are intimidated by Africa, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to plan. Um, But, South Africa is fabulous. It's a great jumping off point for Botswana or Namibia. There's very good riding in South Africa. Cape Town's gorgeous. So if you're a couple and if you have a spouse, like many of us do, or a partner that has no interest in riding, you can sort of sneak in sort of like the riding portion of that and still have Cape Town, the Cape Winelands, and then
Mhm.
do a safari portion on horseback. I've actually booked that for clients who are going to be going in May. Um, and they're very, very avid riders, but they didn't want the entire trip to be just about riding. I mean, because it's a
Yes.
long way to go. And my goal with Africa is I hear a lot people like, oh, we're only going to go once, and I'm like, you haven't been yet, you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're a horse person, that means you probably like dogs. You also love animals, so you are just intrigued. And I love it when people come back and they're like, okay, well, we just did X country. What's next? So.
Yes.
That
It's
that to me, I
addictive
mean, it's
for
a big
sure.
continent. There's a lot of countries, and there's riding in a lot of countries, which is um, which is exciting.
Yeah,
So
I love
very
that you
good.
said that about the couples or, just friends even going together that maybe ne aren't necessarily equestrians. When we went to Ireland and Scotland, all of the girls were very experienced eventers. So we were
Mhm.
out riding all day and the guys were playing golf or fly fishing. And we did the same thing. We worked with someone like you who planned everything. We just showed up, and which was so nice to not have to worry about anything. I mean, we were just told where to be, and then we were picked up, by our travel partner, and
Mhm.
it was awesome. So it's great to know that you also, I mean, sounds like you basically can customize a trip for anybody that wants to do
Mhm.
something like this, even
Yeah,
if
I
their partners
can.
aren't equestrians.
Yeah, and so the group that I took in June, there were nine of us. I think three or four of us rode. So, and that's the other thing that's great about a safari. And a typical day on safari is you wake up in the morning. I mean, this lovely person comes and brings you coffee and tea on your veranda if you're staying at the lodge. And you get up early because that's when the game is active. So you'd rather see the lines walking around than,
Yes.
snoozing because they ate 3 hours ago and they're sleeping it off for the rest of the day. So you get up early, and then most of our group did the traditional game drives. So leave in the morning, usually around 6:30. Um, they'll bring breakfast in the trucks, and off you go. And you never know what you're going to see. I mean, every day is different. And then the group that's riding rides out, and then we usually have prearranged where we're going to meet. They would set up beautiful breakfasts, with they would bring the chef or the cook, and he'd be cooking, a hot breakfast. His beautiful tables were set up, in this beautiful setting, and we would come with the horses and then meet everybody who had been on their game drive. So there's it's an equally fabulous experience for the riders and the non-riders. You're not just sort of, it's not geared more towards the riders if you're staying at a lodge. Now, for a mobile safari where you're doing the point to point, I think that would be not as great an experience for a non-rider because
Yes.
you're going to be in the truck a lot. It's a lot of traveling. Um, and then in the afternoon, it gets warmer depending upon where you are. But a lot of these lodges have pools. You can get a massage for not a lot of money.
The
The
resort.
best of the best massage bargains are in Africa. Meet for tea at 4 in the afternoon, kind of discuss where you're going, and the riders, if they want to ride, go to the stable. And then the non-riders get in the safari trucks, and then we would meet up for sundowners, which is, kind of a classic safari activity, where you're sitting there with your gin and tonic, someplace beautiful watching the sunset, and sometimes it's
Yes.
by a watering hole where the animals are walking up. And then go back to the lodge, clean up, and then dinner's usually at 8 o'clock. And then I just like to say it's like wash, rinse, repeat. Then you do the same thing the next day.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I have to mention this. The first time I went to Africa in 2012, and we brought our boys, and at the time my oldest was riding, so we were the two riders. But I can remember thinking while I was on this trip that I was enjoying myself every single minute. I mean, I really was. And when do you get that in your life? That
Yes.
there's no stress, everything's handled for you, and you're just having a great time, and it's so interesting. Um, and every day is different. It sounds very repetitive, but it's not because of the wildlife.
Right. And you're
Yeah.
just soaking up the adventure as you're going.
Yes, and it's great, and it's just very it's an easy trip. Some people think, well, I'm too old to go, and I'm like, well, if you can get in a car, you can go on safari. And so the safari trucks can be kind of high up, and some of the lodges have like these huge mounting blocks to help people get up because that's really all
Yeah.
you have to do. Again, if you're not a rider, you just have to get from your accommodations to the safari truck, go on your game drive, manage to go eat lunch, maybe sit by the pool. So it can be either a very high energy, very active vacation, or it can be very relaxing, where you're just sort of, you don't have to make any decisions.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I would love that. I would love a little time not making decisions.
Mhm.
Okay, so my next question to get into kind of the details of this because I can't even imagine, and I've had a lot of incredible riding experiences, but I cannot imagine what it would actually be like to be on horseback and to be because I have been on safari, so I can't imagine being on horseback on safari. And so I think for a lot of us, our minds just kind of, go all over the place with what can happen. Like, what's the most exciting thing that you've seen happen? Like, what is something that's really stood out to you where you're like, oh, we didn't expect this, or
Yeah, it's there's so many exciting things. I'm happy to say that I haven't had anything dangerous happen. I have
that's
had some
awesome.
things on non-riding safaris involving hippos that probably weren't the safest thing in the world. But yeah, it's the ability to walk up to, a giraffe, a zebra, a herd of antelope, a troop of 60 baboons that are just living their best lives doing what baboons do. And you're sitting there on your horse and it's like watching the family and what they do and playing and running, and they don't even notice that you're there. And then, in terms of exciting things, it's just seeing game that you don't expect. If you're a fox hunter, seeing jackal, come trotting by in a pair and they look so much like a fox. And, we were like yelling tally ho like we're not supposed to do. Not that we chased anything, but there's always something, around the next corner, which is great. But just these horses are fabulous. That's, the best horses that I've ridden have been chestnut mares, which is hysterical. I mean, because they get such a bad rap.
Right?
But a lot of them are thoroughbreds, former polo ponies. Sam rode a lovely former upper level eventer at
Oh, wow.
Associated. Oh yeah, she can't compete at the upper levels anymore, but she's a fabulous safari horse. And they are turned out during the day, with game. They come at night to keep them alive, so something doesn't eat them. And they're just nothing phases them, And then I get home and Riley, who my Irish horse, spooks at
Yep.
a little teeny bird, and I'm walking an ostrich that's fluffing its feathers because it's a male and it's like 6 feet tall, and the horse is just looking at it. So that's kind of that's sort of fun is to be able to ride a horse that's not spooky, that just takes it all in stride. And I don't really like to ride other people's horses. I have no problem riding them in Africa because I know that I'm going to be really well mounted. So that's exciting to me, the equestrian part of it. But it's just I mean, if we were sitting here right now, I would be pulling out my phone and I would be scrolling through, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I have probably, 3,000 videos that I've taken on horseback. I mean, we all have these on our phones, photos that we've snapped between the horse's ears. What's really cool,
Right.
between the horse's ears and there is a giraffe, 5 feet away from you.
Yeah, it really does. It sounds incredible. So if somebody was like, they hear this and they're like, I think I want to do this. What's the next step? How do they even get started? How do they get in touch with you? How do they go about starting to plan? And how do they start thinking about what the financial part of this is?
So my contact information, my phone number, I'll give that out first, is 404-307-8587. You can always call me. My email is my first name, Jackie, Jackie, at travelerapartners.com. Travelera is Travelera, partners, all spelled out.com. And that's also the address of the website. So those are the three ways to get me. If you Google my name, I'm easy to find. So it's decide, when you want to go. Africa requires some planning. If you're who you want to go with, it's great for a solo traveler, which is intimidating to a lot of people, but you're with another group and you've
Okay.
already got something in common with them because of horses. So it's always interesting to meet, other people on safari. And you're not going to feel isolated or alone or awkward or anything because you just sort of get swept up with the group. And the groups are usually really small. Most of the lodges that I used are 8 to 10 accommodations, so maximum 20 people. And then staff is always fabulous. Planning takes right now, Africa is hot. I have a group that I thought was going to go next June, and I couldn't hold one of the lodges that I really wanted to go to. So a year in advance, I had to push it to September.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a little surprising. If there's just a couple of you, one or two, then you can have a shorter, like 6 month window because I'm not looking for, multiple. I'm not looking to book an entire camp.
Right.
Financially, I'm going to say you have to plan without airfare 11 or $12,000, a week. In a week not being 7 days, but probably 8 to 9 days. And that would have you at not bare bones accommodations, but really nice accommodations, super high quality stables, great staff. And that includes everything. So the second you get off the plane, wherever you're landing, I have somebody greet you at the plane, and then they take you to get your luggage. They take you through the diplomatic line, introduce you to your driver. The driver then takes you to your hotel. If you're in Kenya, the next morning you leave out of Wilson Airport very early and you're in camp by noon, which is great. So the travel part, getting there is a bit of a drag.
Yeah, it's
But
hard.
once you're there, it's very seamless. And then everything's handled. And then same thing, you get back to, say, Nairobi, we'll just use Kenyan as an example. I've got a driver, you fly back in to Wilson Airport, driver picks you up. Your flight doesn't leave until late in the evening. So I have a day room. Typically, I always have a day room set up, or you have a hotel room that you can use until it's time to leave to the airport, like around 10 o'clock at night. So that sounds like a big number, and it is a big number. I mean, it is a big number, but everything's included. There's
Yeah.
the only thing that you're going to spend money on, unless you do a little bit of shopping, is gratuities. And the gratuities are very reasonable, and I kind of that in my proposal. So it's almost like, this is going to sound like a crazy comparison. It's almost like a cruise, except there's
Yes.
no hidden charges for like the
Right.
drink or the Wi-Fi or anything like that. It's all included, and that number can go way up. I mean, I've stayed at lodges that are so over the top that if you've got a huge budget, I'm happy to help you spend it because I've stayed at
Wouldn't
some.
that be nice?
Yeah, truly. Yeah, truly amazing places. I just booked a safari for a couple, and the wife doesn't want to stay under canvas. And she was very particular with what she wanted. So I was able to get them what they wanted, but the budget that they wanted. But she was really, but it was like selecting a hotel. They wanted really good riding, but then she also wanted a lodge with a beautiful view and with amenities, with a pool, and we were able to get that all put together. So different people have different desires, but the trip should be exactly the way you want it.
I think that's fabulous. So, just to wrap it up, what is your favorite part of what you're doing now? Because I mean, I know how happy you are doing this. I can see it, in your social media posts and just knowing you. But what's your favorite part of it?
You know, if you really love something, you love to share it with other people. So, and especially if somebody comes to me with a safari, I'm like a puppy. I'm like jumping up and down. Yay, I want to help you plan this. It's so exciting. So it's like, whoa, back off, Jackie. So I love doing that. And then the group that I took in June, and I still can't get over this. They'd never been to Africa before. And, I had already been, I knew exactly where we were going. And just how they soaked it all in. They loved every minute of it. They couldn't believe it. They really couldn't, how wonderful it was. And to just look around, and everybody had such a great time. I mean, they really did. I mean, there was no one was unhappy. And then when they got back, I mean, it's, we have a WhatsApp chat, and we're still talking. And this is what, August now? And they sent me as a gift, which I love, and I look at it all the time, one of those Aura photo frames with all of
Hmm.
their pictures that they had preloaded. I've been so busy, I haven't even looked at the pictures on my camera.
I
I've looked
love
at what's
that.
on my phone. Yeah, so I'll just sit there some days, and I'll just look at all our pictures and all these happy faces, and how much everybody enjoyed it. And if you're kind of a people pleaser like I am, that shocked me how much I loved how much they loved it.
Well,
So.
you're making dreams come true. I mean, I mean, I know I've introduced people to Africa. We took some friends,
Mhm.
and just seeing it again through their eyes. And it is just such an amazing place. It's very hard to describe to someone who has never been, because even with internet and social media, and you think you have an idea of what it's going to be like, but when you get there and just the vastness of the land and the uniqueness of the just everything, the animals to the
It's
trees
shocking. It
and
is
yeah,
shocking. And we had
in a good way.
we stopped. I like to use private conservancies. I'm very passionate about that. I don't like the big game parks. So I pretty much, limit myself to private conservancies that are very controlled, where there's not a lot of other people. But we went to the Mara North Conservancy. So the main Masai Mara in Kenya can get kind of crowded, and the Mara North is more intimate. And there's two very good safari operators that run mobile safaris out of there. That is great. So you're not going to run into a lot of other people, and you're going to see a ton of game. But we landed at one of the airstrips, and we had a little bit of a drive because the plane that we were on was too big to land at the lodge's airstrip. So we had what should have been probably a 30-minute drive. It took an hour and a half because we were stopping, because it was like, oh my God, there's an elephant. Oh my God, there's a cheetah. I mean, it was hilarious, and I was like, we got a lunch. But just, the second you get off the plane, you're standing there looking around, and you're getting your luggage, and you're looking, you're meeting your driver with the safari truck, and you're like, is that a giraffe over on
yes,
the
exactly.
Or a herd of zebra, and it always is. So that I love how people just do sort of soak it all in and just love it.
Oh, that's great. Jackie, thank you so much for being with us today. And I think this just was amazing. I know a lot of people will be really inspired for two things: just to go after their dreams, go to Africa, but also to just think about turning their passions into reality, into business. So thank you. And thank you everyone for listening to the Main Street Minute, and we will see you again next time.
Thank you, India.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. Email support@mainstreetmarket.com, and join us again next time for another episode of the Main Street Minute with India Wilkinson right here on the Equus Radio Network.